Hello, everyone, and welcome to this fantastic episode of the Private Practice Success Stories podcast. I'm so excited, y'all. Today, I'm going to be joined by Anna Humes, who is a pediatric occupational therapist who is going to be sharing her story of how she got started in private practice. So I'm going to let her on in just one second, but I also wanted anyone who is not yet registered for Private Practice Bootcamp to type the words bootcamp below, and we will get you a link to register. Private Practice Bootcamp starts a week from today. This is our big free experience to start you, helping you have a plan for your private practice that you're excited about and that you absolutely love. So if you have not yet registered, type in PP Bootcamp below and we will get you the link to register. So let me go ahead and bring on Anna. He's on the show, and here we are with an amazing OT, Anna Humes. So she should be coming on in 1 second. Yes, and I see Rachel says she's excited for this, that we need more OT private practitioners, and I could not agree more. It's definitely something that, SLPs have been doing private practice for a while now, and there definitely are OT private practice owners, but not in the numbers that equate to the need that people have. So yes, there's a huge need for everyone's services, and I'm just thrilled that more and more occupational therapists are deciding to go the private practice route. So let's see, I hit the join link. So we should, let's see. Okay, hit accept. And I'm trying. It says accepted. Oh, it says that you're unable to join. Let me see. Can you try to request one more time, Anna? And we'll see maybe why it said that. I'm not positive. This happens every now and then. Sometimes when you're trying to bring a guest on, it like glitches or whatever, and that I think is what's going on. Anna, another thing, if this isn't going to work, is to update the Instagram app on your phone, or maybe you're on your computer. If you're on your computer, sometimes the phone works better. But as we're trying to get this sorted out, everyone who's watching, can you comment if you have already started your practice or if you have not started yet? Either type in started or type in not yet, and we can go from there. But I'm really, really excited to kind of talk about this. Yes, or close the app and try again, as Rachel's suggesting. That can also work. Love it. Okay. So yes, Elliot, y'all, Elliot is fantastic. You're one of the coolest people, Elliot. Elliot has started and is doing some really cool things now, also with a school contract, which is really, really good. Let's see, try to accept again. Rachel has started. Who else has either started, or you could also type in not started. Yeah, perfect. Here we go. Love it. We made it work.
Hello.
Hello. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to be here and to be here with you. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we have featured OTs on the show, but not enough. And one of the reasons why is because there's not enough OT private practitioners out there. So thank you for being on and really kind of sharing your story to inspire others.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to represent the OTs here.
Love it. Love it. So for anybody who doesn't know you yet, can you please share your name, your location, and the name of your private practice?
Yes, I'm Anna Humes. I am in San Diego, California, and my private practice is Pladewell Pediatric Therapy.
Okay, so I love that. And for people watching live, they can see the beautiful view
Yeah.
behind you. Love
Mm.
San Diego. But okay, so how did you get started in private practice? Can you take us back to kind of that point in your career where you started thinking about private practice and like kind of share what led up to that moment?
Yeah, so I think that's probably part of or the best part of my story is this long, winding path to finally get to here where I'm at. Um, Sorry, I'm so excited to be here. I feel like this is a full circle moment for me. So, excuse my shakiness in my voice for a minute. But so I have traveled all across the United States. working in mostly pediatric outpatient clinics, and then dipped my toes into school contracts and working for the district. And um, finally, after feeling like I was never really being served or serving my clients exactly how I wanted to do that, after countless hours in the car of listening to your podcast and really um, getting up the nerve and getting up the feeling of, hey, I could do this. I started Played Pediatrics just in early intervention, and then it's slowly growing to include more older kids as well.
I love that. So thank you for being a longtime listener of the podcast. So that's for a fun thing. And you mentioned kind of a full circle moment. I feel like I do hear that a lot, and I love that, right? I love it when people, have been listeners who have been, thinking about a practice or finally started, who then get to be on the show. It is a big deal. So for everyone who's watching slash listening, like use this as motivation for one day, like you can be on the show too. I'd love to tell your story. But one of the things, Anna, that really, struck me is that you said that, you weren't feeling like you were being served or serving in your like regular job capacity. Can you share a little bit more about kind of what you meant by that?
Yeah, so I think as um, therapists in general, OT, speech, and PT, we're all here to serve our clients and really to give them the best that we can. And I think right from the get-go in school, we're talking about that therapeutic use of self. So that is fully installed into our brain of how we care for people and how we care for our clients and set up a support where they feel like they can succeed. Um, and it felt like working for others, that was put on the back burner as far as it was really more important to be productive, really more important to be serving the numbers and really just going out there for their product. And for me, the product that I wanted to really be proud of was what I was giving to my clients. And so, um, it's really, really hard to fully serve your clients when you're serving somebody else because they're the ones that are dictating your schedule. They're the ones that are telling you that time frame that you have with your clients. And then, of course, there's insurance that's kind of lording over all of that too.
Yeah, totally. And for a lot of people, like that leads to burnout. I know that was true for me. At the time when I was kind of early in my career and starting my practice, the words early career burnout were not something that anybody was saying yet. But like looking back on it, that's exactly what was happening. And so, like I decided I had to do something different, or I wasn't going to last in this profession. So again, what tell now pick up the story back where you kind of were deciding, okay, I kind of this isn't working. Now I want to do a private practice. What did that look like in terms of how you made that happen?
Yes. So when we moved to California, I had taken a what I call a sabbatical from OT. So I took a break from OT for 2 whole years. And in that time, I worked at Starbucks as a barista. Um, and then what brought us out here to California was I was working for a professional equestrian, a horse person. And so I was grooming horses and we were doing rehab work with the horses there. And so that finally got me a little kicked back to um, really coming back to OT and putting my skills back into it. And so when we were here in California, I started working for another pediatric clinic. Within 3 months of joining that clinic, I was promoted to um, the clinical supervisor position. And so I really thought, okay, this is my opportunity. I'm really going to make a change here. I'm going to be able to act as a liaison between the admin team and the therapist and really create a supportive environment that therapists feel like they can survive or thrive. um, and that just didn't pan out. It was kind of the same sort of thing of feeling like I was, dropping the hammer down on these rules that I really wasn't backing, and it really didn't feel authentic to me. So I left that clinic and started working at a really, really great contract facility that did early intervention. And I was with them for 6 months, I believe. And right from the get-go, we had a really open conversation that this was my plan, was to be able to step out and work independently. And she supported that, and she was really, really instrumental in helping me get there. So uh, the spring, so I started last early summer of 2023. And so in January, I started a business certification through the community college. And that was really, really instrumental. It helped me figure out how to set up a business in California because it's very specific here. Um, and then by the time I was ready to start actually open, my boss allowed me to take 10 of my clients that she was incredibly kind to do that, yes. So we picked those clients based on if they were going to be graduating in the next like month or two, or really difficult clients that had already established a strong rapport with me, and it would have been um, just it would have been a disadvantage for them to start over with another therapist. So she was really, really kind. Her name is Jamie Wall at Little's Unlimited here in San Diego. She was really, really kind to let me do that. So that was a really great jumping off spot for me. And so I immediately felt like, okay, I'm a little bit successful here. I've got my clients. One of my clients that had started in early intervention around the same time decided to come on with me as a private pay client as well. Um, so right from the get-go, I had a little boost of confidence and energy to just hit the ground running. So, and then right around that same time, I was invited to talk to a daycare provider here at one of the state colleges to their early intervention or early childhood teacher program. So it was just a really beautiful start for me to get my feet on the ground and really feel like, okay, I can do this.
I love that. Like you really, what a beautiful scenario, right? To not only have that support, but to be able to basically start with clients. I mean, you must have just been like on top of the world, right? Because like a
So much
year or
so,
so
yeah.
before you were, at, Starbucks and kind of taking a little bit of a sabbatical, which to be honest, I hear people either do that or want to do that. Like
Hmm.
pretty much every day someone's like, man, maybe I should just leave the field and go work at Target, which again, no shame in doing that, but I think it just speaks to this bigger issue of like when people are not in control, when they're not able to do the kind of work that lights them up, they do kind of panic and think like, oh gosh, I gotta do a reset. Right? So it sounds like
Yes.
you did your reset and you ended up with this beautiful situation where you had the great support of your employer, and then clients that you loved, and the whole situation with the daycare. That's also fantastic. So what happened next?
So it's really just been cooking along since then. So um, the certification program, it was really, really helpful because our professor had office hours that we could go to, and so it was basically one-on-one mentoring. And so I would set up time with him. We would talk about my goals, and he would very quickly say, scratch that idea. He was really good at reminding me that this is a business and the business needs to make money because as a, frou-frou OT, I'm like, I'm gonna have so much fun. This is gonna be great. I want to serve everybody and make sure that they're profiting from this as well. And he was like, hold up, you really have to think from a business standpoint. So that was really helpful. And the number one advice that he gave to me was to set up my business in phases. Um, it was really important for my husband and I that we weren't, well, that essentially my income from the business was replacing what I had already been making. So it had to be something that we weren't pouring a lot of investment into from the beginning. It had to be something that was able to sustain itself pretty early on. And so the professor really emphasized to me the need to do in phases. So my first phase was really simple, just get started. Um, you know, do all of the legality things, that sort of thing. So now I'm on, phase 3, 4, or 5 or something. Um, and so I'm making that so that I'm meeting my goals, my professional goals, but I'm also meeting my personal goals of decreasing all of that stress that I was experiencing through that burnout with working for other people and really being thoughtful out in my process of what I'm doing, so it's just building upon itself.
Totally. Now, just a curious question. As part of this phase model, which is something that I also teach in my programs, is to build your business in stages. When you first got started seeing your clients, did you like go to them? Was it a home visit kind of a situation, or did you have a physical location from the very beginning?
Yes, so I'm solely mobile at this point, and all of my referrals were coming from early intervention, so the state program. So that was a really, really easy start. I didn't have to invest in a lot of assessments. It's essentially one assessment or two if you include the sensory profile. And yeah, so it was just really, really an easy start. That my main investments were like a really good EMR, the Google Suite, great toys. Um, and, that's essentially my startup cost there.
Yeah, see, okay. So one of the things, now this has to do with everybody. Everybody, like my philosophy in starting a business is to kind of, in the business world, they call this starting lean, right? Like starting with like the it's a little bit more than the bare essentials, but just making sure that like you don't need all of the bells and whistles to get started, right? That will come in a later phase. But one thing specifically that I hear from OTs is that, there's this perceived barrier of, well, if I can't have like a swing and a rock wall and all of these amazing sensory stuff, like I can't start without all of that stuff, and that stuff is expensive and requires a space. So, and I'm trying to debunk that myth. But what else would you say to OTs who might kind of think that they need a lot of expensive equipment to get started?
Yes. So when I first started into early intervention, I was really convinced that I was going to hate it, that this was really just a means to get me to a different goal. And so that's kind of where I started, but I've always been a person that's really passionate about OT. And if I'm putting my efforts into it, I'm going to go 120% into it. So I knew even if I didn't love it, that my clients would have no idea about that because I was willing to put that friendly mask on and just keep going. So that was really my compromise with myself of this big, huge goal. I still want to have a clinic and I still plan to have a clinic, but that investment is so, so steep that it didn't make sense to start that way and then have to crawl myself out of that big giant hole. So starting with early intervention gave me the ability to start, get my name out there, really establish myself, and I'm kind of using that as a way to trial and error through my like onboarding process, my new referral process, all of these different systems that have to take place in a system that is essentially just handed to me. Um, so any advice to OTs is figure it out. What is still going to return that love and joy for OT for you, but isn't going to overwhelm you with all of the things that we feel like we need. Because there's community parks, there's libraries, there's so many things that you can do in the home. And most importantly, those clients are at home. They're not accessing a sensory clinic multiple times a week. So if we're able to kind of scale it back in our own minds, I think we can just as easily serve our clients um, in other settings.
Well, absolutely, because like OTs are the most functional people ever there were, right? And so
Yes,
you know, people can absolutely start with the home environment, like work with like the toys that the kid has, or you bring in, you know, some of your own toys, but you use that natural environment, and you can have the swings, you can have the rock walls, you can have all of that amazing stuff one day, but probably not on day one. So thank you for kind of sharing that, because again, that's something I hear from a ton of OTs. So it
yes,
sounds like, you know, you were also, you know, starting to build some word of mouth and starting to kind of get some referrals. Is part of this, you know, the where you're getting the clients from through EI through like the regional center? Okay.
yes. Um,
Can
it
you just
has been.
explain that to people who may not be familiar with how regional centers work in California?
Yes. So the setting up with regional center, it does take quite a bit of time. It probably took me like 1 to 2 months just to get the paperwork rolling. And then the billing system is like from the 90s. It's so archaic. So that took, I think, like 2 months or something. Um, but it's a really simple process. You just go. Currently, I'm a sole proprietor, but I will switch to an S corp um, next year. So it's a really simple process. You just establish yourself as a sole proprietor in your city, and then contact the main person at the San Diego Regional Center, and then fill out all that paperwork. Our regional center encourages us to send out flyers. So anytime that I have an opening, I send out my personal flyer that says I'm available Tuesday and Wednesday in these zip codes. And then throughout the week, different service coordinators will reach out and ask if there's availability. They usually give us a really basic information for the client. So we might get a diagnosis or specific concerns. Most often, it's just their weekly availability and their zip code. So if it plugs into your schedule efficiently, um, then you can say yes or no
That's
to that. But it's really,
perfect.
yeah, it's really easy. Once I've been established, so probably after 4 or 5 months in the system, it I can I typically track who's going to be graduating from my schedule each month. Well, I just have a post-it on my computer, and so it goes all the way through the end of the year. And so when I'm expecting those kids to graduate, I'm reaching out to service coordinators with that flyer to say, hey, I've got this opening. And usually it's filled within the week after, or definitely within 2 weeks. So I'm constantly kind of monitoring my schedule to make sure that I'm filling holes before they even happen.
I love that. I mean, it's a really great setup. So for anyone who is in California and likes working with the EI population, becoming a vendor for a regional center is a fantastic way to fill your caseload with clients. And it sounds like, you know, I think that there's different ones kind of around the state, but generally what I hear from people is that there's a pretty consistent volume of referrals. And so this is like a really nice thing to do.
Right. Yep. And just as an update, I love EI. It's been really, really fascinating to me to see the disorders or the problems that I've seen in older kids and how I can quickly intervene, just as it says, with those younger kids so that we're developing from the get-go those coping strategies at a much more basic level, but then boosting them up as they continue to grow. And I have a much more diverse caseload where I have a lot of physical disabilities or congenital disorders. And so, EI, for any OTs out there, I was really prepared to hate it, but I actually love it. So, um, another little tidbit,
Yeah.
allow yourself to expand into other um, settings and other demographics. And I think you'll find that love for OT is right there where you left it.
Well, and I love that too, because, one of the things that we hear so much, even before we get into our professions, is like how flexible the field is, right? People are like, oh, whether it's speech or OT, it's so flexible. And it does allow you to try different populations. And it's so funny that you say that because, when I was in grad school, I'm an adult person for, I think most people know that, but I had to do a school placement and I put the bar so low. I was like, I'm going to absolutely hate this. And because I put the bars so low, I was really pleasantly surprised. And, I still didn't end up working with kids, but it still like made me think, you know what, Jenna, like you can try things that you may not expect to like, but like you might like them. And so I love that you're encouraging people to kind of like think about other populations that, you're still an OT at heart. And like the populations may change, but like your skill and what you bring to the profession is still consistently there.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah.
And that passion and that just drive to continue learning
Yeah.
is even more fueled because I'm in this completely new setting. And parents in early intervention, rightly so, are very concerned, and they just want all of the information and they want everything to happen within those 3 years. So it's just a really great motivator to really push yourself and keep striving for more and more.
I love that. So my next question is kind of like a logistical one, which is, what does your private practice look like in terms of things like your schedule, for example?
Yes. So this year in March, I turned 40. And so I gifted myself with a 4-day work week. So I work Tuesday through Friday, and I don't work before 9. And my evening schedule is a little bit more lenient, where I'll take later kids if I feel like that fits in my schedule, or if I'm in particular need to fill my schedule. But typically I end before 5, so a typical 9 to 5. I am, excuse me, I am driving all day. So I try and see between 5 to 6 kids within that time frame. So my schedule is pretty well packed, and I'm certainly working hard. But that's all going towards my goals. So it feels productive, and it feels sustainable for that. Um, and then I usually spend maybe half the day on Saturday either catching up on admin work or working on different projects. Like this summer's project was to finish my website and kickstart my social media. And then this fall, I'm working towards building a parent education course. So that's my big project for the fall. Um, but otherwise, it's a pretty easy day.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. And again, you've scheduled like this is one of the freedoms and why I like private practice for, for myself and for others is because you do have that flexibility. Like in any other job setting, you can't just say like, well, now I'm 40, I don't want to work on Mondays anymore. Like they're not going
Yeah,
to be like, oh, okay, right? But like when you're your own boss, like you can make that decision. And then I also really like that you said that, you don't start your day until a certain time and that you end it by a certain time. And yes, you have some flexibility around that. But I think, again, people are really looking for that. Like they're looking for
hmm,
more balance. And part of how you get balance, listeners, is by creating boundaries. Like you need boundaries around your time in order to be able to have work life balance, right? And
right.
it's really hard to set boundaries when you're working for someone else, right? But when you're working for yourself, you can set your own boundaries. And in that situation, the trick becomes to actually enforce the boundaries. But that's a whole other story.
Yes, yes, that's a whole other podcast.
Whole other podcast. Now, my question, and you don't have to give any specifics on this, but I remember that you mentioned earlier that when you were first talking about your practice, that you and your husband said that this needed to replace your income at your old job. Has that been able to happen?
Oh yeah, that happened by probably month 4.
Nice.
Um, and then after that, it's exceeded that.
Okay. Perfect. Because again, that's another thing that people are kind of thinking like, wow, so not only can I have a more flexible schedule, I can also work less, right? Working 4 days a week versus, 5 days a week. And then to be able to earn more money, like, I think that's why so many people are heading into private practice is to be able to, again, to set those boundaries, to make the kind of income that they want to be able to make and to work with populations that light them up and that you care a lot about. Like, this is fantastic. I'm so happy that you're doing this. Are you happy that you're doing this?
I'm so happy. Yes. I took that 2 year break because I had really just been worn down from the profession. And then when I came back, it was like, oh, it was really out of a necessity for making the money that I could make. And so I really didn't come back even with a refound love for the profession. It was very much like, okay, I'm here. Um, it's always been my goal that my customers, my clients, they have no idea about my internal feelings, and so I would always show up for them 100%. But internally, it was a struggle to get there, and so um, this has been so amazing for myself and for my family, and I feel like my clients really understand that and they feed off of that too. So my cancellation rate is very low. Um, Even in holiday season, we're rescheduling, we're doing makeups. Clients are attending, they're following up on their home exercise program, they're asking really thoughtful questions. They are just as committed to the process as I am, and I think that shows I'm able to show up for them every single week because I'm coming from a much better, more fulfilled space. And then I'm able to fulfill them and make them feel like they are supported through all of the milestones and the setbacks that we're hitting along the way.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is why I say that private practice is the bridge that helps clients and clinicians get what they need, right? Like you are getting what you need in terms of fulfillment, in terms of finances, in terms of, freedom, all those kind of other things. But these, in your case, kids are getting the services they need that they might be, going without otherwise, or might be stuck on a wait list or what have you. And so thank you for helping bridge the gap for your clients, but also yourself. And listeners, realize like you can do this too. If you are feeling burned out, if you're feeling like, that you're just going through the motions and you're not really making a difference that you got into the field to make, like private practice could be the answer that you're looking for. So, Anna, for anybody who's kind of like on the fence about private practice, maybe they've been thinking about it for a while. Maybe they've been thinking that they need, the big gym and they need all the fancy equipment and stuff. What would you tell people who, again, who've been thinking about becoming a OT in private practice but haven't done it yet? What would you say to them?
I would say rely on your therapeutic knowledge. You know how to write yourself a long-term goal, and you know how to break down that task and just slowly build those small goals until you're really achieving those big goals. And you can set each goal so that just as we do with our clients, that there's that right challenge, that it's attainable, it's sustainable, it's something that's feeding into another. And so you're just stacking yourself until you make it. And you'll find along the way that those short-term goals are you making it. And then eventually, hopefully, we'll be making those long-term goals that are off in the future. Because I would love to have a big, huge pediatric clinic that's able to sustain its community and support others. And really, I just have so many ideas that are waiting. But the small ideas are there to build me towards that and just to set the stepping stones that I can take one step and make it into it. So I'm not making this huge leaps. I'm not putting myself into a situation that I have to stress and worry about being able to sustain it. I'm just climbing the ladder one step at a time, and that in itself is really, really a great achievement. We don't have a lot of family here in California, so I keep my family updated through our group text, and each time I send one small achievement, they're there to cheer me on or really support us. So um, I'm getting teared up because it really is. It's been an incredible journey to put myself out there to feel like, oh, I don't know if I can do it, and then just keep coming out the other side with a smile on my face and a smile on all my kids' faces too.
I love it. And like a big smile in your heart, right? Like I can just tell by how you're talking and just how fulfilled you are now, and that you're not just like, kind of, faking it or anything. Like this is something that like you've gotten in touch with those aspects of your life that you care about, and it is showing. It's showing not only to yourself, to your clients, to your family members, it's showing to me. And I'm just so proud of you and what you're
Thank you.
doing.
Yeah.
Where can people, if people want to learn more about you, where can they find you online?
Yes, so I just published my website yesterday. I still have a couple edits, but they can find me at plaidwellpediatrictherapy.com. Instagram is plaidwell.ot, and then Facebook is Plaidwell Pediatric Therapy as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for inspiring the next generation of OT private practitioners.
I'm so happy. I have refound my joy of OT and really appreciate what you have contributed to that, Jenna. It was so inspiring to sit in my car for each day and review all of those podcasts that you had put out, and just listening to other people's success stories as well as your tidbits on how to get started and everything was really, really instrumental in giving me the confidence to even think about it. So all appreciation to you as well.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. And like I said, just thank you for being on and inspiring the next, like we're change makers, right? Like we're changing things. We're
That's
changing
right.
things for ourselves and for others, and it feels good to do that. So for anyone who's watching slash just listening, if you are ready to make a change, if you're ready to at least test the private practice waters, head on over to privatepracticeschool.com right now. Look up the information because I'd love to help you get started. So anyway, thank you again, Anna, for being on the show. Thank you, watchers and listeners, for being here with us. And we'll see you next week for another episode of the podcast. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you so much. Bye.
Bye.